Welcome to Social Class, episode 2, everybody. Um, Happy to be here. I feel good. Blessed to see another day. I'm aware that this probably won't release at the time of, what day it is, but I hope everybody got out there and voted. Your vote does matter. And especially if you are an African American, I hope you got out and voted because that's very, very, very important. Many, many lives were lost in order for us to have that right. So, let's get started. How you feeling, bro?
Good, man.
Back on the social class, man.
Man, I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
It's
If you
been
missed episode 1, this is just a conversation. We have a general idea about what we're going to talk about, but for the most part, we're just opening up. You know what I mean? We're both here. We're both vulnerable, and in turn, we hope that creates a space, for everybody else to feel comfortable talking about some things that we consider really matter. You know what I mean? Besides just like what happened on the gram. You feel me? So let's get into it.
good.
What are you thinking about? What's on your mind?
Shoot. I started volunteering with some kids.
For real?
Yeah,
Oh
elementary school, so that's been cool.
yeah. Mm.
And it's cool because I can't say any names because it's still
Bet. We never
the
say
state,
names. We
yeah,
never say
the
names.
details. But it's crazy because the lady that I was talking to was interviewing for the position. I had a real cool conversation with her. This
Mhm.
was Monday,
Mhm.
and so we were just kind of talking, and I was talking to her essentially about the lack of role models, of good role models for the kids, because the program, the volunteering, is for elementary kids, and it's just kind of teaching them affirmations.
My fault. Oh damn. That's my mom. Hold on. We keep it rolling. What's up, mom? Hey, Can I call you back in a little bit? I'm about to. I'm in the middle of the podcast right now. Okay. All right. All right. I bet. What you saying? My bad.
But no, I was just talking about the lack of role models for a lot of the kids, and kind of
Mhm.
how, cause she was telling me how it's some crazy statistics, like 60% or something, like they don't of the kids of the elementary kids, they don't believe in themselves, and
Mhm.
like they don't see themselves as valuable, they don't see themselves as smart because they aren't getting any of that positive influence.
Mhm.
That's what kind of got me thinking, cause that's what stuff. When they aren't getting positive influences, they're still gonna get some sort of influence. So if that in turn is negative, that's gonna have a
Mhm.
large effect on their trajectory.
Yeah.
And so it's something I feel passionate about because this kind of goes back to my whole college experience as far as being in college playing soccer and not having a real role model, any real
Mhm.
leadership from my coach,
Mhm.
and like that really affected me because I'm an 18-year-old kid and I'm really looking for some leadership, some guidance. College is a new place and all that. I'm trying to figure out my way,
Yeah.
and it's like the figures that are in positions of power, they aren't really good examples of kind of like what a role model or what a leader should be. So like I
Yeah.
feel like that's something I've kind of been longing for and was looking for. So it's like because I didn't receive that, I was kind of telling, well, I'm trying to provide that for somebody else because I feel
I
like I didn't
feel you.
receive that. And
Mhm.
like that's the type of like I was talking in the last podcast, solutions. I'm trying to. It's not just problems. I'm trying to like help create some
Yeah.
solutions
Actually,
now.
try to fix some shit.
Exactly, and like
Yeah.
give it back.
Mhm.
Pay it forward. How
Mhm.
about the next generation?
Mhm.
How about the kids? How about the youth? Because it's important. So I mean, I've been feeling good about that, and I'm excited about that opportunity.
Mhm.
You know.
Nah, that's dope, bro. That's really dope. I was thinking like that just kind of got me thinking to like how I was explaining earlier how like the whole the whole reason I feel like I have a purpose is for the future generations. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily about my life. It's because I realize how detrimental the world that they see and observe, like how you said, like how they don't have any role models, like the world that they observe now is just so important, man. Like I don't want to get into politics, bro, like too heavy, you know what I mean? But like I was telling you the other day, I was talking to my homegirl and I told her how crazy it was that like adolescents and teenagers, like kids that are like 13, 14, like just now starting to like develop and like be able to observe the world and kind of like make sense of it, like for real.
Yeah.
Teenagers, they look at our president and they think that that's what a president looks like. For real. Like they don't have any other thing to compare it to, cuz that's all that they know. So then when you see that and that's, like your leader of, you know what I mean, of the country that you live in, that's dangerous, man. That's dangerous because he's out here on social media saying crazy shit.
You
So
know,
you know what I mean? So it's like if he can do it, then like
what
fuck,
kind of
like
example is that setting for the kids?
exactly for the
I'm
kids.
just gonna when I get mad, I'm gonna get on Twitter and go on a rant. I'm gonna call
Yeah.
people names. You know.
Or even like what to strive to, because I remember when we were little, everybody was like, "You could be president of the United States one day." Like that shit is like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like the level of what that means, bro. That's nothing.
For
Fuck
real.
that now. You know, it used to be a position that like was dignified. You know what I mean? Like the president moved a certain way. Like you almost look at them like they're like, you know, like Superman. Like for
Yeah.
real. Like even though you grow up and you realize that they're just regular, but yeah, no, man, it's very important to, you know, what kids see growing up nowadays, and I mean that's why we're on our mission. You know what I mean, to make sure that we can influence human behaviors in a positive direction. You know, yeah, for sure. But I know you wanted to get your story off on the podcast, bro. Talk about that a little
No, I
bit.
did. I know I shared a little bit about it, but no, it's something I do want to talk about my college experience, the way it affected me,
Mhm.
and how it did a lot of damage. But it's
Mhm.
crazy because that damage in turn caused a lot of reflection,
Yeah.
which caused me to almost come to a consciousness.
Yeah.
So the start of the story is kind of I played soccer, and then I decided to go to UCLA, play college soccer,
Mhm.
and so I got there in 2015, and I didn't really know like I don't really come from a big soccer background. Like nobody in my family really played soccer. I was kind of the first person. So
Mhm.
I had built connections through like youth teams and like guys I had played with, but I didn't really for the most part I was kind of navigating it newly.
Yeah.
Not
Just
blind, but like I
yeah.
didn't really have anybody that came before me
You're
to
just
tell me
natural, just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
exactly, tell me like this is what you should do, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
So when it came down to choosing a college, I had narrowed my choices down between I wanted to stay in California for sure. I was
Mhm.
like I want to either go to Stanford, UCLA, or Berkeley. You know,
Mhm.
because I was like California for sure, like born and raised here, like I love it.
Yeah.
And then I ended up choosing UCLA because like as soon as I got on the campus, it's like paradise, and
Yeah.
like that's like part of the entice of LA. It's like I say it's seductive. It's
Mhm.
like I look around and like materially and like
Yeah. It's the
it's
girls, the
it's
cars, the
crazy. The
Melrose,
houses,
all that shit.
exactly. All
Yeah.
this is like what I'm striving for. And like
Yeah.
I think this is paradise, and like I think this is amazing. And like from the outside looking in, it is all those things.
Yeah. What you think is paradise.
Exactly. But once you really experience it firsthand, you realize
Yeah.
it's way different. It's like it's so different from the outside. And
Mhm.
so that's essentially what happened. So after my freshman year, I even after preseason really, I kind of could see like the assistant coaches were the ones that really recruited me there, and so that's why I had a better relationship with.
Mhm.
I could just kind of tell because it was crazy talented. Like we had a bunch of talent on the team. Freshman year we had too many players, but that was like that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, that's a lot of
Yeah.
depth. You should be able to utilize that to your advantage. But it's like the way the coach was moving, it wasn't like that. And like
Mhm.
that was part of the problem. He was like the type of person that like obviously and clearly just played favorites. And like it was
Mhm.
to the point where it's like his favoritism, even if it was affecting the team, it didn't matter. Like he's
Mhm.
gonna take care of who he likes.
Yeah.
And like that's what he was doing. And I mean, the way I describe it to people is like so freshman year we had 35 people. And before practice, he'd literally come out and shake 5 people's hands. That's it. In front of the whole team. And so like I'm just sitting
That's
there
wild.
like, what kind of message does that send to the
It
rest of
said
your
fuck
team?
all, fuck all 30 of you.
You know, he
That's what
literally
it
shake
meant.
their hands, sit, joke with them, like have a conversation, like how you
Yeah,
doing, how's your
yeah.
family,
But
like
this is my
everybody.
squad right here.
Exactly,
Like,
everybody
yeah.
can hear him all that, and so it's like it's so alienating, and like that's what would
Mhm.
happen. He would lose the locker room, and
Mhm.
like it's a disconnect. It's like guys like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy doesn't really. It's like it seems
You
like he
don't give
only
a fuck about us.
exactly,
Yeah.
you know, no way about it. And so I saw that after freshman year, and I was like, it's tough because he had leverage.
Mhm.
The campus recruits itself. The school, it's like he's in a position where it's like, okay, you want to leave UCLA, like that's on you. You know, nobody's like people are gonna think you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like because this is paradise, and that's why so many he was able to get away with so much, and like people were able to endure through so much because it's like they
Mhm.
don't want to leave. It's like giving up a great thing.
Yeah.
But and it's crazy because like so after that season I had a camp in Florida, and I had some of my coaches in Florida. They were asking me how everything was going at UCLA. This is in 2015,
Mhm.
and it's just this is crazy. One of my coaches there, he's like, "Yeah, how's the coach? How you liking him?" And I was like, "You know, he's a little fake. You know, he's a
Yeah.
little like," and he's like, Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard he's kind of a fraud, and like that's the exact word he used. And I was like, like
Yeah,
I wouldn't have used that word because I was like, that's kind of
yeah, it's kind of
that's
it's
harsh.
deep.
Yeah,
We don't use that
exactly,
shit every day. Like
exactly. You don't just throw that
you
out
just
there. But
call
I
a
was
nigga a fraud.
exactly, but I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, like a little,
Fraud.
essentially, you know, like
Mhm.
that's kind of like more or less.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy because that was 2015, and
Mhm.
so then I ended up playing. I ended up playing 3 seasons total, and then ended up leaving. I ended up quitting the team in March or in
Mhm.
January of 2018, just because it was so. What led me to quitting is that so all this stuff that I'm saying about the head coach at the
Yeah.
end of our season in 2017, they just blamed it all on the assistant coach and fired him and said just blamed it. I literally
Yeah.
just watched them blame this all on him, and they're like, yeah, he was the problem.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as I saw that, I was
That's some
like,
corruption fuck shit.
you know,
Yeah.
I was like, bro,
That's
this
what that
is
is.
crazy. I was like, they really just dished all the problems onto this man and
Yeah.
said he's done. So they
Mhm.
fired him. So after that, that was kind of like the last. That was real off-putting for me. And so
Mhm.
then I literally quit the team. Then and I was like, at this point, I was kind of like already. I was already in a depression. I was diagnosed in like August of 2017, and so I wasn't even gonna play the 2017 season. But they convinced me. I was on
Mhm.
antidepressants, bro. It was like they was like pretty much dragging me along, bro. It was
Damn.
tough, but I was just because it's just like, man, that's why I say it did a lot of damage. Like this, and it's crazy because a lot of it was environmental. It's like
Yeah.
this is just the culture that he's instilling. The
Yeah.
head coach has the most power on the team, and so it's
Yeah.
like he's almost corrupting the rest of the environment. And like
Mhm.
this is like something different, but it's crazy because like corrupt environments can corrupt everybody,
Mhm.
and it's like that is essentially what was happening there. And so long story short, I ended up leaving in January 2018, and I ended up just going back home because I was like, I'm just trying to be around my family. I just want to be around people that I know actually care about me. You
Yeah.
know, actually have my best interest because I wasn't doing well. And then it's crazy, but the next year, so a year passes in March of 2019, this all these news stories break out, scandal, college admission scandal, and then it turns out like
Bro was a fraud.
bro was a fraud. Ended up collecting $200,000 in bribes to get people in the school that didn't
That's
really play
crazy.
soccer, that weren't really athletes, but they were paying them under the table.
That's crazy.
And it's crazy because I was just like, man, like so many people had told me this, and like even people who had like within the team were pointing out like something's not right, but like nobody could exactly point what it was, but like the truth finally came out. And I'm not an I told you so type person, but it was just like to see that I was like, man, like
I
that
told
made
y'all niggas. Like,
exactly
I had an intuition.
exactly. It's like it wasn't like I'm not gonna say it was reassuring, but it was just like that kind of was my reminder that like the truth will always come out, you know, and of karma, essentially, because I'm a believer in karma, and so it's just kind of like everything you do is gonna come back around. It's gonna come full circle. Like all the dirt you do is gonna come around,
Yeah.
and so I don't know, but it's crazy. Like I try to take the good with the bad, and it's like from that experience, me becoming depressed, me leaving school, me leaving a great thing, me experiencing all that negative stuff, that made me self-reflect and kind of
Yeah.
figure out like who I am, who I want to be.
Yeah.
And it's like that's why I feel passionately about corruption. That's why it really
Mhm.
bothers me. That's why I don't like it. You know, because it really does affect people, and oftentimes it affects people who. It affects people the worst who aren't known about or
Yeah.
aren't really like talked about. You know, people are gonna talk about the other people, but it's like they don't really talk about like the collateral damage of corruption, essentially. And like there's a lot of that. And I mean that awareness is just kind of something that I feel like has helped me. So now I'm more compassionate with dealing with people, like understanding that people go through things and understanding that like the importance of self reflection and the importance to like understand kind of who you are.
Yeah.
But man,
What happened? What happened to the team that you played on before you went to UCLA though? Like, how did that work? Because you played on a team. You were on like that team before when we were in high school and stuff. Was that just like high school, or was that like?
no, that was like a club team. So that was Galaxy, and so they wanted me to play there, but it's like they were like, don't go to college because like that's like a professional organization kind of, and they're separate than college, and like the whole system is pretty much like two separate systems. So it's like me leaving there, it was kind of like
not going to college.
Was going to college was like the opposite.
Going was like the opposite.
Exactly.
Damn.
Exactly.
That's wild, bro.
Nah, yeah. I mean, and it's crazy. And on top of that too, so it's like, man, it's just because it's like I've always like I just wanted to like playing soccer. it's just been not to win, but it's like that's like part of it too. You know, the coaches and the players, it's always been like, okay, who's trying to win?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this was just the craziest thing because like I literally experienced a coach where it's like he's not doing everything to win.
Yeah, it wasn't
like,
about winning.
Exactly, it's about taking care of who he wanted to take care of, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's crazy because like it was like the elephant in the room, but like nobody could talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, nobody. But it's like everybody saw it. Like everybody knew. It's like there's guys on the team that's like, okay, this dude just talent wise, just ability wise, like it's objectively clear he shouldn't be out here.
Yeah.
But it's like it just so happens too his father's very wealthy. And
just
it's just
so
like,
happens
you know,
his father's very wealthy.
and it's like shit like that where it's just like,
yeah, them niggas in barbecues and shit on Saturday.
you know, it's like the corruption is like obvious, but it's like nobody's talking about it, and it's just like, oh, this is regular, this is just what it is, this is just normal.
But bro,
and,
that's kids' lives that you're playing with, though.
You
bro.
know,
like that's
and
like,
it's crazy because I'm not the only one. It's a lot of people's futures who are damaged and definitely disrupted because of this man.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's the thing. That's the stuff you're not gonna hear about.
Yeah.
That's the stuff you're not. And it's like, but it's like a bigger conversation where it's like, why are people paying that much money to get into schools? Because like that's the weight we put on this. You know, that's the weight people put on the degree. But it's like, it's almost like an artificial value because it's like,
no, it is.
And it's just like people are hyping it up like, oh, you have a college degree, so it's like you can do whatever you want and say whatever you want, but it's just like it's not real almost.
Yeah.
Or people, I feel like people are losing a sense of proportion.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man.
I feel like it gives people like a false sense of like, just like, I don't want to use intellect as the word, but yeah, intelligence. Like people really think that school, because you have a degree, that you're more intelligent than somebody else. Yes. Like totally disregarding the fact that there are many people that are billionaires, millionaires, and geniuses in this world that don't have a college degree.
Bro.
And it's just so crazy to me because just how like you said, how much weight like we put on school. Like it's like, first of all, we live in a capitalist society. School is a business, first and foremost. So I don't know why people treat it like it isn't sometimes, you know, in terms of like going and like the need to go. But I remember somebody had asked me one time what was like what have I done in my life that was like that made me most proud of myself. And I told them that it was my decision to stop going to school. And they were like, you know, like they looked at me sideways, for real. They looked at me sideways, but they didn't know me too well at the same time, you know, but they looked at me sideways and they were like, why would you say that? And I was like, because it was such a big deal for me, because it was like that was one of the first things I had ever done to like go against the grain. You know what I mean? To kind of like
bet on yourself.
to bet on myself and like run my own race. And that's like, it's funny because we glorify these people that do that after the fact, but when somebody actually does it, then it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, exactly. It's like they don't want you to make it, but then like they're all going to be quiet, and then when you finally get there, then it's like, I knew he was something. Like bro, hell no. But I think it's very like damaging to kids to make them think that that's the only way that they can be successful or they can be smart, literally. Extremely. Is by getting a degree, because school isn't like a quantifier of intelligence. It's literally just like discipline. Can you read? Can you memorize? And can you regurgitate that information? Because most of this shit you don't remember anyway.
And that's
what's
crazy, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
People memorize stuff for the quarter, for the semester, and then if you were to ask them about that same information the next quarter, they've forgotten all of it. So what's the point of it?
Exactly. But I'm not saying it's like, I'm not saying don't go to school. That's not what I'm saying. I think education is very important, but I just think more people need to be aware of the fact that that's not the only way to make it in life. You know, like that was the way that I kind of like made my decision. I was like, okay, what is school ultimately for? So I can get a degree, so I can get my career. So I can then in turn use my career to support myself and support my family and raise my kids to do even better than I did before. So if I have something else, you know, for me, it's my art, that I think can not only surpass what I have earned if I had a college degree, but I mean, at the very, very bare minimum, be able to support myself and with doing something that I want to do, then why not go that route? You know what I mean? I just think that more people need to, not people, but kids, like we need to stop painting this picture for kids that you failed if you didn't go to college, you know, like, cause it's not the answer. It's not always the answer to everything. You know, we need lawyers, we need doctors, We need dentists. You know, you need to go to school for those things. I don't want a doctor that hasn't been to college.
Yeah.
But it's
No.
just like there's other things for us to do out here, you know, besides doing that. And I don't think they should be marked as, you know, you're more intelligent or less intelligent because you took a different route. That's all that I'm saying when it comes to college. But
Because that's part of the issue, though. They present it as like it's the best option for
yeah,
everyone.
it's the end all be all. Yeah.
So you take people who come from poor environments and you convince them, okay, take out that loan. You know, you need to go spend all this money on going to
Forever in
college.
debt.
Exactly. And so then they just trap themselves, and then they realize like this isn't even for me. You know, and because I'm the same way. Like I'm not saying like get rid of all colleges. Like college is very valuable still, but it's like it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And we need to stop treating it and stop presenting it like it's the answer for everyone. You know, everybody's different.
Yeah.
There are some people who college and higher education is perfect for them, but other people, trade school or skills, artistry, creativity. It's like different options. Don't just tell everyone go to college. Go to college.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like people got to stop and think and definitely an analysis, like a cost analysis, but also a social analysis, because that's the other thing. Like some of these colleges, they're not the most accommodating for people. It's literally for a certain demographic, you know. And it's like so you get there and it's kind of like it's you. At least
it's a culture shock.
Exactly. You know, you feel it's different. And it's not necessarily the most welcoming. And that's why it's like it's dangerous to present it as the end all be all for everybody. And that's kind of what we got to get away from.
Yeah, for real. Because that's even that. I think that's one of the reasons that we have a lot less. Like, you know, I'm always really big on ownership, but a lot less owners in this world. Because the school system teaches you to be a worker. Like they teach you to literally whatever skills that you're learning, whatever you're getting your degree in, you're going to use that to go work for somebody else. You know, they don't teach you to be owner. And that's part of, I mean, capitalism, that's part of power, maintaining power. There's a lot of layers to that. You know what I mean? But it's low-key a way of keeping people down, you know, by convincing them that that's what they need to do. So everybody's going to be a worker, and then everybody that's benefiting from it is the people that, you know, endorse these schools, own these institutions. Like those are the people that are really benefiting, you know. So of course they want you to go to school, but you know that's just whack to me, man. Because like I said, just the effect that has on the decision making, you know, of a kid that's not necessarily. I don't want to put anybody down, but this is just the word that's coming to my head, like strong-willed, you know, that has the will to step out on their own and do what they want to do, regardless of whether their parents think it's right, whether society thinks it's right. Not everybody will have that. And in turn, you get people who, I don't want to say waste their lives, but they never get a chance to find their purpose, you know, because they're doing something that society wants them to do as opposed to what they really want to do. That's ass for me, bro. So many kids that, if any kids are listening, there probably ain't no kids listening, bro. Like, I'm not saying college is bad, but if you have a dream, if you have a purpose, that is the most important thing, for real. Like, whatever you feel like your purpose is, that is more important than anything, really.
And the fact that people, it's like we're asking 18-year-olds to decide their future.
Oh, hell
where
yeah.
it's like without any, and telling them that like, oh, if you don't make the right choice, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, what kind of shit is that to tell an 18-year-old?
Yeah.
You know? So then you got 18-year-olds, and this is just adding to the stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, this is just another burden of the mental health. From the
real.
comparison where it's now like, okay, at 18, oh, I didn't go to a good college, like, my life is over. My life is done. And it's like, it's not like that. And then, because, like, that's the thing, like, these colleges are going to be there. So it's like...
Yeah. I'm going to go back.
Exactly. Taking a gap year or taking even a couple years to work or figure out what you want to do, figure out, like, slow down for a second and, like, really figure out what it is you want to do, that's treated like such a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, to me, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's actually could be beneficial to stop and think, but there's so many people, and it's like, this is the strong societal influence where it's like, okay, as soon as you graduate high school, it's on to college, and then it's on to grad school, and then it's on to... Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's part of the timetable, though, the anxiety. So it's like people have all that planned out, and then it's like, okay, if it doesn't go to plan, everything falls apart. The world collapses.
Your whole life is fucked up.
You know?
Like, yeah.
It's like, it's not healthy.
It's not, bro. I think, like we always say, awareness is so important. Just being aware that there is no time limit, you know? Your time limit is your life. Yes. You know, straight up. It's not There's no designated by 24. I have to have this. I have to be married. You know, like it takes everybody different times because there's so many other factors that play into why you may not achieve something by a certain time too. You know what I mean? Like for me, my dad passed away. If my dad was still here, I'd probably still be in college. I probably would have finished right on time with how I was supposed to. But from somebody, I don't want to say like on the outside looking in, but somebody who like might not know me at all and is like I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. Somebody that might not know me, they just kind of like they people already form, I don't want to say opinions, but just like people will always ask you like say like, you know, they look at a young man like you and they'll be like, "Oh, how's school?" Like they
Yeah,
assume, you know
yeah,
what I mean, that
facts.
that's what's
That's just what you're
going
supposed to be
on.
doing.
Yeah,
That's
exactly, like
like,
that's what's
yeah,
going on, but like I remember receiving questions like that and telling people, you know, like, "Oh, like I just stopped or whatever." And I didn't stop immediately after my dad passed. I remember I finished like 2 semesters and got straight A's through both of them. But I just came to a point where it was it was a management of my time. It was like, okay, I have this thing with art that's like really dope right now and it could go, that's really what I want to do. That's the direction I want to go in. And then since I don't have like the man in my house anymore, it's just me and my mom. It's like I have to work. I have to help my mom out. I can't not work. So it's like something has to give. School just so happened to be that thing because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I'm very mindful of this too, bro. Like I'm so blessed that my mom was like behind me 100% when I made that decision. Because for a lot of kids, it's not like that. But I am mindful of the fact of like your parents only really like teach you what they know. You know, in the last generation coming up, college was like the answer. But right now, I just think it's important to kind of like give kids a little bit more freedom because the world is changing. You know what I mean? We don't live in the same world. Our last generation of parents, I remember I forgot where I heard this. This isn't from me. But somebody had said that like the last generation, they were living to survive. We don't have to live to just survive anymore. We don't have to live to just go to work and fucking retire and go home. We can thrive now. Literally, we can own things. We can do things,
help
you
our
know?
own,
Exactly.
uplift.
Exactly. We can uplift others. We can form communities. We can do that now. We don't have to necessarily just go to school and there's so many different opportunities now, you know, besides just like going to college, getting a degree and then cuz there's so many people I know. This was another like reaffirmation of like I was glad I made the decision I did because we're at the age right now where like everybody should have graduated, you know,
Yeah,
like 4 years removed
yeah.
from high school.
Facts.
But like, there's a lot of people I know that got their degrees that are at like fucking Olive Garden, like
Yeah.
niggas working at Little
Still
Caesars.
trying to figure, cause
Yeah, still
and
trying to figure it
that's what's
out.
crazy. People realize like so they get that degree and they realize like, oh,
Oh
I
shit!
got it, but it's like this isn't
Like what
everything. Yeah,
now?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, man, it's crazy because it's like that's real. It's like that period from like 22 to like 25
Mhm.
where it's like people are kind of figuring out like, oh, like just because I got the degree, it didn't really guarantee anything.
Yeah.
It didn't really like necessarily change a whole bunch. Like I
Yeah.
still, because it's like you got the degree, but it's like there's still like an incomplete, like an emptiness. It's like you
Yeah.
still got stuff to
Because they
figure
didn't
out.
have a purpose.
Exactly.
They were just doing it because it
They were
was what their
told to.
parents told them to, because society told them to.
Exactly.
That's it.
So they did that, and then because they did it, now they're like kind of upset. Where it's like, okay, well, why isn't there more?
Yeah.
Like what next?
Mhm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I simply just don't think that we were put on earth to just work every day of our life until we get like 60 something, then enjoy like 5 to 10 years because our health is deteriorating because we work for so fucking long and then die, bro. I don't think that's that, at least not my life. You know what I mean? Like I want to enjoy life a little bit, you know, and I don't want to live on anybody's clock or anybody else's, you know, time or standards. I don't want anybody else to dictate essentially what my life is, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. But I was thinking about too. I told you like that I wanted to tell you what I like what was going on in my mind. You know,
Yeah.
like when
From the outside.
from the
Looking
outside
in.
when I knew that like you would like stop going to school.
I want to
Like,
hear this, bro. 'Cause
yeah, bro. Like and I'm gonna be honest too.
I want you
Like
to
I
be-
don't want
that's
you
the
to like
thing.
be offended. Like I'm being
That's what
straight up
That's what I was
honest.
gonna tell you, bro. Like I need you to be all the way honest. You
I
want to
will.
offend me?
I will.
Like I want. all the
So
way.
you know, with you, like I don't know if you recall this, but I never really talked about soccer with you in high school or junior high. I never really like mentioned it because I don't know. Like I've always just had I wouldn't say a feeling. You know how we talked about like intuition before, bro, and just like I knew you were more than soccer, like for real, and I didn't want to reduce you to that, and I knew that that's what like a lot of other kids like saw in you, and that's what you were known for. So I just never really brought it up. Like I just kind of like just let it chill. But but yeah, bro, I remember like I was just like super proud of you, of course. Like me and my mom calls you cousin Malcolm, and like when I remember we started watching your games on UCLA and stuff, and there was one game where you won like you hit like a game-winning goal and like some shit like that. Like it was just super dope. Like I was keeping up with you, like from a distance. And I remember because that was around the time I kind of started getting into like more art stuff and more shoe related stuff. I started kind of like zoning in and locking out the world a little bit. So my circle was really tight. I only hung out with a select few people. Wasn't really in communication with everybody from high school, and this is like 2 years after or whatever. But I remember it had happened when I'm not going to say his name, but somebody that we both know came home from the military, and every time he comes home, he goes and like checks up on everybody. He goes around and just says what's up to everybody pretty much that we know, and I admire that about him because I never really been like that. You know what I mean? To like actually just like actively hit everybody up and make sure I see everybody. But whenever he came home, he would always come see everybody. So yeah, I remember it was one year he came home and we were hooping, and he asked me. He was like, "Bro," he was like, "How come you didn't tell me Malcolm stopped going to UCLA?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "I didn't know. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, bro. Like, bro dropped out of school and he's trying to become a rapper." I'm like, what? I'm like, no, bro. I'm like, not Malcolm, bro. I'm like, not Malcolm, dog. Like, I just, bro, I was hurt, dog. I was hurt. I was like, bro, you're fucking lying. I was like, no way. I was like, no way. He was like, yeah, bro. He was like, I was just hanging out with him and whoop de whoop. And like, bro, it's just like becoming a rapper now. And honestly, bro, I was like this. I was like, no, bro. Like, no. And I came home and I told my mom, and my mom was like, what? And she was like, not cousin Mal. She was like, what? No. She was like, no. She was like, no, that's not, that's not right. So then time went on, bro. And like, I remember I was just like, I would tell my mom, I was like, damn, like, I wonder, like what happened? Like, what the fuck? Like, like this Malcolm's supposed to be pro. You know what I mean? Like, Malcolm's supposed to get us out the hood. Like, the fuck is going on? So I remember some time passed, and then I think I had seen you. I had seen you at like a party or something, and I remember that was the first time I saw you with dreads and stuff. And I didn't ask you about it because obviously I was at a different point in my life too, like maturity wise and stuff. So I wasn't going to bring that shit up. Like, like people try to stay away from that type of stuff. So, but I wanted to know, but I didn't ask you though. Like, it was just like, what's up, whatever. Like, the encounters we had were like very empty because I saw you maybe like 2 or 3 times. And it was just like, like, what's up? I remember we saw each other. We hung out at the hookah bar and went to In-N-Out. Oh, yeah. Remember that? Yeah. And like, we didn't really talk too much, but I started telling you a little bit what I was doing, but I was still like in the beginning too. Yeah. But I remember like you seemed like kind of like intrigued by what I was doing at that time. I remember that. And then we just didn't connect after that. So bottom line, like 2 years passed after bro told me you dropped out of school to become a rapper. And the whole time I'm just like, the fuck is going on with Malcolm? You know what I mean? Like I can't believe this shit, like what's going on? Like, it's so sad, like it's tragic. Yeah. And my mom was thinking the same thing too, because I would always talk to her about it. But then I was like, you know what? I was like, I wonder what happened to Malcolm. Like, something had to happen. I was like, Malcolm never no, like something had to happen. I would tell my mom that all the time. She was like, talk to him, like find out. So then, long story short, we didn't see each other for 2 years. And then I finally saw you with Knicks, and then we caught up, and then I found out everything. But then I felt bad, bro. Like, I told you I had that conversation with my aunt, and I told her about this podcast we were starting, and I told her about you, and I told her your story too. And it's just so crazy to me, like, how we can see things from the outside looking in and not know exactly what happened. And, like, the first thing it is, like, to judge. Because in my head, I was just like, bro's tripping. You know, like bro's
But,
stupid. Like he should have got his degree. Like bro had everything made. Like that's what's going on in my head. And I was just like why would he fuck that up? You know? But then after talking to you and hearing what happened, I feel stupid. You know what I mean? For even like thinking that, because obviously like you really went through something. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't like you intended for it to go like that. It wasn't like you wanted that to happen. You know, I'm pretty sure you prefer that you would have finished. You know what I
I wish
mean?
I
And
would
got
have
your
got a
degree.
degree and been playing pro soccer right
For
now.
real, exactly. Like that's what you wanted, but I think that's just a note on just like how we shouldn't be so quick to judge. You know what I mean? And not know what people go through. You know, because you really never know like what's going on with somebody. Like I said, just looking on the outside, looking from the outside in, just like damn, bro made a really stupid choice. But then like after I hear your story and hear your perspective, it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? Like I could imagine that a human would feel like that. And then two, just considering that like soccer was like your whole life, and then like you have something like that just corrupted and collapsed and taken from you, like I could only imagine. You know what I mean? What would that do? Like, where would my life be if my fucking hand broke? Like,
Or exactly.
yeah, like what do I do? You know what I mean? Like you're lost, and we shouldn't. That even like comes into how we just need to open up conversation a little bit more and actually talk to people sometimes and ask people how they're doing, because it's like I just kind of like fronted you off in a way, and I feel bad for that. But now like I'm glad that not glad that that happened to you. I don't mean that, but I mean I'm glad that you're at this place now, opposed to like where you were when that first happened. And once again, it's just a reminder to me, like don't judge anybody. You know what I mean? Just by what you see, because you don't ever know what somebody went through or how it happened. But that's a story.
Bro, I appreciate you for telling that too. For real,
bro.
because that's a great example of the incomplete judgments though that we make. You know, and like that, I for real appreciate you for being able to share that, because a lot of people wouldn't share that. You know, they wouldn't even feel comfortable to like admitting where they were wrong, and the thing is too, because it's like you weren't alone. Like that reaction, that's the reaction my parents had. That's the reaction that everybody had. It's like, what's bro doing? Like you literally have everything you need right there. You're in paradise. You know, why would you give that up? Why would you leave that? And it's like that's kind of just a reminder, because I've done it too. It's like perception isn't always reality, and so it's like you don't always like your perception of things isn't necessarily exactly how things are. But it's like a lot of times we convince ourselves that the way we perceive things is the way things are.
Yeah.
And so it's like a lot of people perceive it as, okay, you're a great opportunity, you gave that up, like that's dumb, that's on you. But it's like what they don't see is like the negative sides. Like why would because like that's what I say, like they don't look at it from the opposite. Like why would somebody leave everything they had? Why would somebody drop out of a school like UCLA? Why would somebody give up their scholarship, not play their senior year and it's like it makes you realize like how bad must things be for someone to give that up. And like that's kind of where, because like that's where I'm coming from. Like damn, this is just like every year it's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse. But like that's what the beauty of that is. It made me relate to a lot of people too, because it's like it's crazy. Like a lot of other people I had heard who had similar experiences where like they love a sport, they get to college, and because of a coach, their whole relationship with the sport is ruined. They're like, it's tainted. They're like, I don't want to play football no more. I don't want to play basketball no more. I don't want to play softball. It's crazy. It's across so many different sports, whereas people have similar experiences as this. And that's where I kind of like am able to and want to connect to even more people. And just like getting people more comfortable talking about the damage and the effect that negative experiences can have on them. Because a lot of time that gets written off. Because like there's a lot of people that would kind of, like I was saying, that would write it off as, oh, that's just a disgruntled player. He's just mad he didn't get playing time. He's mad that it didn't work out the way he wanted to. And now he's just like, he's upset. So now, and it's like, so then that in turn makes people feel not listened to, not heard. And that's a point I did feel like a lot of time too. But it just also made me better at communicating and wanting to hear and talk to other people too. So it's like trying to just find the beauty in it. But the main lesson from it all though is like, don't be so critical and don't judge others.
I just want to say one last thing before we wrap up the episode, because I feel like it's been enough time. It's been like an hour, but I just want to say that made me, with the last thing you brought up, is just one quick story I want to tell about like perspective, bro. The situation that I went through. I feel like that's so important, because I had told you that I actually had like lost a friend. I lost a homie when my pops passed away. Not like lost him forever, but just we got in like a weird, really weird place. You know what I mean? Because I was telling you that like I didn't really feel like the effects, like grief didn't start kicking in until like a cool like 6 months after. You know, so like for like my dad passed away October 2017. From October till like even after his birthday, bro, which was in June, like I was fine. You know, like I was because it hadn't hit me. Like my world didn't really shit didn't set in.
Yeah.
So this particular homie just thought like, you know, like I was cool. And then they ended up I actually told them, like I vocalized to them, I was like, yo, like, you know, like I'm kind of going through some things, like just, you know, like give me my space. They didn't give me my space. So then it just got to the point where like I started ignoring them, and low key like it fucked up our relationship to the point where we're still not like, you know, like super cool right now. But my whole point of like telling that story is just like, besides the cliche of like you never know what somebody's going through, I want perspective is so important, bro, because you really need to just try to like just try to take a step back and think. You know what I mean? Like what someone could possibly be going through if they we're all the sum total of our experiences, and everybody has different experiences. You know what I mean? So it's just like if you aren't living their life, then just kind of, you know,
You don't fully
like
know.
stay back. You don't know what's going on with everybody. You know, so don't be so quick to just kind of like front somebody off, or just, you know, because of how they're acting. You just really never know but what somebody's really going through. You know, we need to I think the world would be a lot more peaceful of a place if we all just tried to understand each other a little bit better, for real. And that's what we always say, like perspective and understanding.
That's
But
exactly it.
last thing before we go, leave them with a book.
Mm.
Think about it. A good one.
I think the one I'm reading right now, Democracy in America.
Democracy in America.
Yeah, Alexis de Tocqueville.
All right, bet. Democracy in America.
Good
All right, bro. Until next time. Appreciate everybody. We still working out the kinks and whatnot. You know, we'll get more refined, but I appreciate you for listening. And always, we fuck with you. The world just needs a little bit more perspective and understanding. We are social class.